Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to look into the graphing form of a horizontal parabola, or otherwise called the sleeping parabola. So please remember that the parent equation of a horizontal or sleeping parabola is x equals y squared. So this is the parent graph of this parent equation of a horizontal or sleeping parabola. The graphing form of a horizontal or sleeping parabola is x equals a parentheses y minus k squared plus h, where our a, h, and k are parameters and the x and y are variables. Now if I'm going to add this, that would be it's the one in red graph. Now if we are going to change this k to 0 and this h to 0, both this red and green graph would match up. This means that our parent graph of a horizontal or sleeping parabola has an a of 1, has a k of 0, and an h of 0. Please remember that this h and k are actually the locator point or the vertex of the sleeping parabola. So that's the vertex right there. Now let's look into the effects of a, h, and k to the graph. First, if a is positive, then the graph opens to the right. If a is negative, the graph opens to the left. Now, if the absolute value of a is greater than 0, that's 0.1, or less than 1, so if we go to 0.9, then the graph opens wider compared to that of the parent graph. So as you can see, it opens wider. The same thing on the other side as well. So if it's a negative 0.9, negative 0.8, negative 0.7, the more it gets closer to 0, the wider the opening would become. Now, notice this. If a is 0, then the graph is actually just a vertical line. And what happens if the a is greater than 1? So if the a is 1, then it matches to that of the parent graph. Now if the absolute value of a is greater than 1, then the opening becomes narrower and narrower. So as you can see, the opening becomes smaller. So when the absolute value of a is bigger than 1, could be on the other side as well, it gets skinnier sideways. So pretty much like the opening becomes narrower and narrower as we go away from 0. Well, if we get closer to 0, the opening becomes wider and wider to the extent that when it gets to 0, it will become a vertical line. Now let's look at the effect of h. So h will move the graph left or right. So the h will translate the graph left or right, while the k will translate the graph up or down. So it translates the graph up or down. Now, please notice that this sleeping parabola that we have here is divided into two parts, and there's a line that divides it. We call it as the axis of symmetry. The equation for that axis of symmetry is y equals k. So as you can see here, this graph is this broken line actually divides the graph into two halves. So this is the axis of symmetry. So if we move this up there, so pretty much like if we have a k value of 1.5, then the axis of symmetry is y equals 1.5. So we can see that over here. So that means if we have a k of negative 2.5, then the equation for the axis of symmetry is y equals negative 2.5. So these are the properties for the sleeping parabola or the horizontal parabola. That's it. If you find this video helpful, hit like and subscribe for more math videos. See ya!